They talking like they're gonna be there every year. They're not. They're not Alabama. They're not Ohio State. They had a great season with an
Great
amazing
season.
back. They had a running back who was comparable to Barry Sanders' yardage. Let's talk about that.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Roll Down Thursday edition, great seeding coming from the college football playoff. Football spins, but other sports lose, and a recap of the summit. So let's go ahead and get started. With me today, Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, there are already changes coming to the 12-team college football playoff because they're moving to a straight seeding model this fall, and they're rewarding the selection committee's top four teams with the top four seeds in a first round bye. The 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame, along with athletic director Pete, no, it's Notre Dame's athletic director, came up with this unanimous agreement. Will, we ain't had the thing but a year. and Arizona State and Boise kind of benefited from it. But what are you thinking about going to straight seeding, man?
I think it's great. I mean, if we think about it like this, we've had it for the last 80 years where we've had bowl games, and in the last 10 years we've already improved the playoff. I mean, they're actually kind of listening to people. They tried it with a 14. They said, "Okay, this is okay. I like this. I like this." And they expanded. I believe it was 10 teams or things like that. Now 12. It's only going to get better. Unfortunately, it's going to shrink. One of the best things about college football was the bowl games that were outside of the championship. The stuff that we loved, Duke Mayo Bowl and the PlayStation Bowl. And, if you're not in the playoffs, a lot of these kids are not going to play because some of these kids are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're like, man, I'm not playing no Taco Bell game and da 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 da. So it does improve the college football playoff brand, but it does hurt the totality of college football in terms of the bowl games and things like that.
Well, Boise State's a little upset about it, and they said call it the Boise State rule, and I would be upset too. So we will see how this goes.
How does Boise get off the audacity to be upset of that? Like, what do you mean? Like,
They were 11-1, and their only loss was to Oregon.
they talking like they're gonna be there every year. They're not. They're not Alabama. They're not Ohio State. They had a great season with an
Great
amazing
season.
back. They had a running back who was comparable to Barry Sanders' yardage. Let's talk about that. They talk, man. Look, that'd be like if Kennedy did very well, and they were like, "Well, this doesn't work for us." Kennedy, you got one time invitation. You ain't getting no like perennial joint, so you need to relax. So
Okay.
it's Boise. We'll see when if it's a team like Texas or a team like Ole Miss or a team like that. But Boise doesn't move the needle for me, so I ain't listening to them.
All right. Making an offer you can't refuse. Yes, that is a Godfather reference. Friend of the show and Yahoo sports reporter Ross Dellenger. Excellent read, guys. Follow him. Again, friend of the show. Reports that power conferences are working on a contract for schools opting into the House settlement as a way to bind the group and provide stability around the enforcement of rules. That includes most notably decisions from the newly dubbed NIL Go, an entity expected to more strictly enforce booster pay. So, Will, um, if a state law says something and a conference law says something, I believe you're supposed to go with the state law, but this is saying you have to go with the conference law. Isn't that collusion or antitrust or something? Isn't there something wrong with that? Talk to me.
Hey, all I know is the lawyers are keep getting paid because nobody knows what they're doing. And they're still not including the student athletes on these decisions. And these student athletes, I think they're looking at them like kids, but these kids are now they're 24, 25, 26. Now they're lawyers, they're joining the NIL in terms of, okay, well, let's talk about the commission, until they include the student athletes to make those decisions, it'll always go through the courts and it'll get struck down. And because, like you said, Coach, nobody know who do I listen to? Do I listen to the state? Do I listen to the school? Do I listen to the conference? And does that work for everybody? So I think they just being a little bit inclusive in terms of their decision making and how they're making this decision without the critical people, the student athletes, or even the schools. I mean, your idea of what's going on. If I'm at Georgia, my what I'm thinking is different than somebody who's in Boise, for example. It's different going Arizona State versus Texas. So it's so different. How can you look and say this is going to work and we're not going to include the schools, we're not going to include the student athletes, we're not going to actually even have, and I'm surprised they haven't even had a NFL sort of, like a GM or somebody who brought in as a contractor to say, hey, look, this is how we run it. Bring in people from Europe, like, hey, you guys run a soccer team. Tell me about that. How do you run that? We talked about professional basketball over in Europe. Bring them in. Let's talk about this. How do you run with your, because again, at the end of the day, it's not NIL. It's just paying kids in school who may not be here the next year. So they need to do much. I mean, they should have done this, but there should have been so many more research done from everybody, but they're still just kind of being inclusive in terms of what they're trying to do, and it's just not going to work. They're just going to go through the courts. The courts are going to struck them down, and we're back where we're at here now. So I don't see it's going to work.
All right, it's your problem now. NCAA President Charlie Baker confirms that the NCAA will cede enforcement authority of amateurism to the newly created College Sports Commission, explaining at the night commission hearing that, quote, the power conference's response to the House settlement is to create an entity, the College Sports Commission. And the point behind that was that have some cap management systems, some third party NILs, have some rules associated with both. Um, the governing body will also continue to run, the NCAA will continue to run championships and pay for a significant amount of the House settlement. But in terms of our regular enforcement, we're going to pass that off to the College Sports Commission. And the College Sports Commission will have a commissioner. And the commissioner will have final say in doting out punishments. Will, as we close this segment, is this the best way to do it in your opinion?
Hey, I guess everyone is passing the buck, man. Nobody wants nobody when it doesn't go down, they want to point a finger, and everybody is passing that. You know what I'm saying? So they need to really just have somebody who is willing to step up, say, "Look, I'm going to handle this. If it fails, it's on me. You can replace me, you can fire me, whatever." And that's what they should do. But right now, everyone's so scared of ruining their reputation. They're kind of passing the buck every time. So it's unfortunate that it's something that they want, but they don't want to step up and be like, I want to own this. This is mine. And nobody wants to do it. So again, when you have no, I guess if you don't have like a leader, like somebody who you can point to and say, you're in charge, you know what I'm saying? Like for example, and I hate to say it, you don't have a Trump. You don't have somebody to say when things go bad, you say, it's your fault what's going on. And that person has to say, well, this is why this is this. I feel like this is going to come in situations where something will happen and people will be like, "Oh, well, it's not really my job, but I can talk about it."
That's not my
We've been
job.
there before. We've been there before.
All right. So, fans, in segment two, we're going to actually talk a little bit about Olympic sports and international student athletes. There's a lot going on with them as well. We'll be right back on the Yahoo podcast. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Keith Adams, and for years, I've witnessed the struggles student athletes face on how to truly balance the demands of academics and athletics. It's a question that I have dedicated my life to answering. That's why I wrote Finding the Balance, my personal journey to academic and athletic success. It's more than just a book. It is my personal journey, and it is filled with hard-earned lessons from decades as a coach, educator, and now president of the CKA Safe Project. Inside, you will find practical advice, real-life stories, and a clear roadmap to help student athletes, coaches, and parents navigate the complex world of balance in sports and education. And now I am thrilled to bring this message to a wider audience as a proud member of the Cascade Sports Network. We're partnering to amplify these crucial conversations about student athlete success. I believe every student athlete deserves the opportunity to reach their full potential, both on and off the court and the field. You can purchase your copy directly from our website at www.casafeproject.org. Join me and the Cascade Sports Network as we work together to help every student athlete succeed. Welcome back to the Hot Coaches Podcast in segment 2. Harvard has been in the news, so I want to talk a little bit about Harvard and transition that into Olympic sports. So Harvard and the Trump administration are having some issues. U.S. District Court Judge Jeffrey White has blocked the Trump administration from terminating the legal statuses of international students at universities across the country. This injunction also prevents the administration from arresting or detaining any foreign-born students on the basis of immigration status, while a case challenging previous terminations moves through the court. Why does this matter to the Odd Coaches podcast? A lot of these international students are, wait for it, student athletes. And they've come to ply their trade, get an education, and enjoy the American educational athletic experience. So a lot of these student athletes will play Olympic sports. And again, friend of the show, Roth Dellenger, points out that an interesting proposal to preserve Olympic sports was submitted at the Knight Commission hearing, where, quote, Olympic coaches associations are pushing for laws to codify NCAA sports minimum 16 for the FBS level, and also require sports to maintain current amount of resources that they're doing. So with all of this going on, you've got international student athletes worrying about can they stay. You've got Olympic sports being cut, and we'll talk about that in segment 3. What's your reaction to this?
It's kind of Trump just kind of it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. This should never even have happened. I mean, why is we need international students? I mean, to say to somebody's like, "Hey, I'm coming from," and you know, I want to say this. When he said this, a lot of people focused in on the brown and black people. When they say, "Oh, no more, no more, no more international students," people think like, "Oh, you mean China? Oh, you mean Middle Eastern?" Nah, but it does include Canadians. It does include Europeans. It includes anybody born outside the United States, which is a lot more than they think it is. It's unfortunate because it's a bully tactic. Somebody who doesn't want to do something says, "Oh, well, if you don't want to do this, well, you can't have your international students." But I don't think you can. I think that's illegal. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of illegal. You can't just say, "I don't want to be, people international here." It's just unfortunate, man. I wish, to be honest with you, I haven't been watching too much about it, but I did see the going back and forth. And like everything else, I'm sure the courts are going to struck it down and just say, "Look, you can't do this, Trump. Like, what are you talking about here? Like, what are we doing?"
Well,
So
one of my closest colleagues used to tell me, math instructor extraordinaire says, "Hey Keith, every data point is a person. Always remember that when you're doing, the work you're doing." And real talk, 32 Olympic sports programs in Division One have already been cut since the announcement of the House settlement, and that's a loss of almost 1,000 roster spots. And that doesn't even include St. Francis saying, "I'm out of Division One. I'm going to Division Three." And on top of it, you have reports like what's going on at Oklahoma, where they're planning to lay off 5% of its athletic staff. And you're not getting these positions back, which equates to roughly 15 positions as a result of the changing economic landscape. And that's like going to be the new drinking game as they get rid of programs, as well, the changing landscape. So even the AD at Oklahoma is going to adjust his own compensation. So what are you thinking about when you hear the first part. Okay, there's some stuff going on, but I'm on Joe Q campus, and now we're losing people. And think about you and Tooch, man. What if we didn't have somebody like that to go to just help with your regular day? Um, any thoughts on that as we close this segment?
It's unfortunate because majority of the athletes that go to college are not the millionaires that they talk about. They're not the guys who are going to Alabama. They're not the guys who are playing basketball at Texas. They're regular students who are trying to play basketball, play sports, and get a degree. A lot of them don't have the opportunity to play professional because a lot of kids aren't that good. But to say that, it takes a lot as far as time management aspect. That's something that we learned a lot in high school. We were like you said about, Miss Amatucci. She provided things that yes, she was downstairs yelling us, get in the studio hall, get down, come on, hurry up. But what she is creating was creating an idea that, hey, your time is precious. As an athlete, you can't just be lollygagging around. You need to be doing things. You know what I'm saying? Because it will affect you down the road. Go to study hall. Okay, we're in study hall. Do your homework. Why? Because when you're done practice and you're done, we get home and you're tired, you're not doing any homework. And then when you go to school the next day, your school homework will be done instead of, oh, coach, well, I was tired, I didn't do that. And then all of a sudden the teacher wants to have a conversation, and coach hates conversations with teachers. And then it becomes a thing, and we did a really good job of doing that. I mean, we did a really, really good job. Like I mean, we had our tips and taps there, like, things to worry about, but we needed those middleman, I'd say, to kind of navigate us through that process. And I think in college, it gets even more important because now you're including, hey, I have to go from building A to building B, and I have to be there at this time because I have to be at practice, and then I have to eat at the right way. Then I have to, and I think what we're going to have a lot more is a lot of these kids are going through a lot of mental breakdowns. And again, if those mental breakdowns are becoming more frequent, we won't have the people to take care of those people. I think it's going to, and it's easy to slash budgets from a number perspective, but you have to look at, like you said, every endpoint is a person. So you can't look at it just from a number perspective. You actually say, okay, this person may be making $50,000. Okay, what is they really doing? Oh, they're just talking to athletes, taking them to school, conversation, making sure they do this. Not needed. It really is, and they're actually probably getting it pretty low. I think we can go to. I'm sure Shaq, if we talk to him, how was his experience with George Mason? I'm sure he would say there's a ton of people who helped me get to where I needed to go, and a lot of them weren't, professors or coaches, and it's just unfortunate because here are people who never played sports, who never played sports at a high level, and they're making decisions about kids who play high level sports, and they don't really understand. You know what I'm saying? But if anything, sports gonna find a way to get what it gets done. We used to do it when we ain't make no money. You know,
Yeah,
now we,
and I'm never going to say every dollar that's allocated is spent wisely. So we all go through audits all the time, and can we do this? Can we do more with less? Have that conversation. I'm a nonprofit president. There's everything has to align, and every dollar has to have maximum impact. I totally understand that, but some of the programs that are being lost for reasons beyond the school situation, that's going to hurt, and we still have to be intentional with what we're doing in terms of support. So as we close segment 2 and get to segment 3, one, we're going to talk about how people are spending money. Two, we're going to talk about how that money needs to be allocated also to Title IX and some other things. And three, we're going to give a summary of the Black Student Athlete Summit that I had the pleasure of participating in. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Safe Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CK Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. Shout out to an organizational ally and a friend of the show, prominent Title IX attorney Arthur Bryant. One of the nicest people you could meet, Will. I had the chance to meet him on Capitol Hill through my work with the Drake Group. He is launching his own practice and tells media reports that this is a period of time that's a golden opportunity for Title IX enforcement in America. The law is very clear that women athletes at colleges and universities are supposed to get equal opportunities to participate, equal financial aid, and equal treatment compared to men. And some schools are providing it, but many are not. And it's time to hold them accountable. And because of the House settlement, some schools are going to eliminate teams, um, and that's what we're really looking at. So his law firm is not going to be limited to Title IX cases, but seems like a perfect time to do this. So uh, we wish you all the best with that, because wait to the next segment of this. SEC football recruiting spending. So, Will, this is what SEC teams spent strictly on recruiting. Tennessee led the charge with 5.4 million, followed by Alabama at 5.3, Texas A&M 4.1 million, Georgia 4 million, Oklahoma 3.8 million, Texas 3.6 million, Florida 2.7 million. That answers some questions for you, Will. LSU 2.4 million, Ole Miss 2 million, South Carolina close to 2 million, Missouri 1.5 million, Auburn less than 1.5 million, Arkansas 1.3 million, Kentucky 1.2 million, and Mississippi State 990,000. No information for Vanderbilt because I think they're private. So when you see what I just mentioned at the beginning, Will, with Arthur Bryan, you know, taking on a lot of Title IX cases, and you see what the SEC spends on football, and then you know that in the show notes, schools like Purdue Fort Wayne is discontinuing baseball and softball programs. Stephen F. Austin will drop bowling, men's and women's golf, beach volleyball. It's what are you thinking when you see all of this, Will?
It's kind of like the Wild West, you know? I mean, how do you get better? How do you get better? Like if you're Mississippi State, how do you compete with Alabama? How do you compete with Texas A&M? How do you compete with these guys? And those are just the top tier schools. I mean, how do you compete? You know, it's almost like a unleveled playing field. It's just it's crazy. And now you have other schools who are getting rid of their programs just to stay competitive. I wouldn't even say competitive because Fort Wayne ain't staying. They're not staying competitive. They're just trying to stay in the club. You know, that's what they do. They remind me of the dude at the casino where you go into the joint and say, man, I'm gonna go put this credit card in. I'm gonna tell. I know I shouldn't, but I'm gonna do it. So it just there needs to be some sort of cap. There needs to be some sort of understanding and level the playing field because how do I compete with a smaller school with a Texas A&M or Georgia unless you're telling me that I'm not supposed to or you know what I'm saying, but there has to be some sort of level. They say, look, you can only spend $1 million on recruiting.
Oh
That's it.
man.
It'll be hard, but I mean, it's just unfortunate because the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer. And I 100% agree. Think this is going to get ballooned in the next 5 years anyway. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised in the next 10 years, they're paying $8 million a year, and the minimum may go down to 2 million. I mean, you have to have some sort of baseline because a lot of schools are not going to be able to keep up with that. And it's just unfortunate because you're just not bringing in the cheese like that.
Well, before we get to the Black Student Athlete Summit, this wasn't a bad idea. Green Bay has filed for a waiver for the NCAA to allow its men's basketball team to compete in the basketball tournament. Some of my favorite summer watching. The request acknowledges that the TBT is neither certified by the NCAA or falls within the legislated exceptions, but makes the case that it's a suitable replacement for a foreign tour, which permits college programs to travel abroad and play against professional teams once every 4 years. Head coach Doug Gottlieb, who is also in the media, says, "Hey, man, when you play overseas, you go to France, Spain, Belgium, whatever. These aren't NCAA sanctioned. So, in this time of changing money and so forth, let us do this and provide the same type of experience." I actually like the idea, Will, and I'm going to watch the TBT. What do you think when I shared that with you that hey, Wisconsin Green Bay, who was one and whatever, they stunk up the joint last year. Let them play some ball in the summer. What do you think?
Sure, why not? I mean, I like it. Hey, I think because like you said, coach, it's not about the actual, it's about the camaraderie. It's about you keeping your guys together in the summer, grinding in the summer, making mistakes, putting in systems, putting in different mentalities. Some of the my closest friends in my life were just spending time with them in the summer.
In the
No,
hot dorm.
running around on the track, dying together, brotherhood begins to share pain kind of thing. I agree. And it's unfortunate that Doug Gottlieb is the one that says it because he's not the best voice of reason or even that anyone likes, but he is right. I hope people actually, like you said, Cole, I hope people actually listen to it because it does make sense. Because if I'm a basketball team, I'm like, man, what's the best way to get better if I don't have a lot of money? I have to just make this team so inclusive that they know they can run my system in their sleep. They know each other. They know, hey man, I know Will woke up at 8 a.m. He woke up a little late, might be groggy, so we got to keep him going. We got to get him going. So I like it. I think it's going to be good. I think that's so, and also they will get experiences that they will never see. I think they'll get opportunity to and they'll understand that the world and the best thing about traveling is it's the biggest understanding that the world is huge and how blessed you are being in the United States playing basketball for a university. I think it
Yeah.
just creates a whole idea of I, I can't even stay on the words, but it definitely will affect the kids in a good way to actually have those experiences together, and they just become closer. We'll get a much better
Yeah.
product from the one and whatever, because guys are because it's just different. That whole relationship will blossom. So I think that would be
Uh,
such a good thing. Hope it happens.
all right. So to close, 10 years ago, I presented at the first Black Student Athlete Summit on my proposed research on academic and athletic motivation. 10 years later, I presented about turning theory into practice. Student athletes, coaches, practitioners from across the country gathered in Chicago for an incredible experience. As Dr. King said, we've got some difficult days ahead, but the work's being done. And here's CKA's role in doing this work and moving it forward. One, we want to expand the outreach of the Find a Balance book and put it in as many student athletes and families' hands and help them just start their process. We want to continue our research on student athletes and coaches. We hope to complete our initial research by June 30th, do the processing over the summer, and then share this information in the fall, winter, and spring coming up. We want to continue our organizational ally work with the Drake Group as we work with Congress to find something on a federal level that can help student athletes across the country. The Odd Coaches podcast. We want to return to Find the Balance Friday episodes. I met a lot of folks with a lot of stories, a lot of good things that they're doing. Let's use this platform to help them. In addition to platforms, our platform with the Cascade Sports Network, that partnership is growing. We want to expand our academic and athletic consulting work. We want to expand our internship program. One of the things the student athletes kept saying was they need experience to get these jobs and nobody wants to give them experience. We want to provide that experience for them in terms of project-based learning and experiential learning opportunities. We want to have CKA chapters across the country and continue to build that network. I'm working on my second book, Lessons in Leadership, and will promise to write the afterward when I was done with it. I hope you can still fulfill that.
Still on it.
We're also planning our virtual symposium in 2026, our Gap Year Academy in 2027, and so much more. And as an independent nonprofit, it's so important in this changing time to continue to have financial support from viewers like you and supporters like you. So super producer Kelly will put this on the screen. You can donate at www.ckasafeproject.org and click the donate button. We have Cash App, we have Venmo at CKA Save Project. And one of the things we tell everyone is when your future's on the line, experience matters. So let CKA Save Projects, over 30 years of experience in academics and athletics, help you achieve your personal and professional goals. It was an awesome experience. Thank you to Dr. Lynn Moore from the University of Texas and everybody who worked with him at the Black Student Athletes Summit. Will, any comments before we close? Because you are theory in the practice as a master's degree holder, and you make well. You're much more comfortable than coach. I'll smile and say that.
Yeah, nothing much to extra. I think you said it perfectly. I think that's what said it, man. I think unfortunately, it had to be a thing because we weren't being included, and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And the best thing, like you said, coach, is that people come in, we network, and we grow from that, and it'll only get better. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be something that's going to help us as we move forward in this situation in sports, and I think it's awesome.
All right. So on behalf of our captain for life, Will Cotton, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, also seen on the Cascade Sports Network. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.